All right. Number one, there are 55 students in the Spanish club, so 55 students. A sample of the Spanish club students was selected at random and asked whether they intended to enroll in a new study program. Of those surveyed, 20% said that they would enroll in the study program. Based on the survey, which of the following is the best estimate of the total number of Spanish club who intend to enroll? So 20% intend to enroll. So, and there's 55 students. So what is 20% of 55? And we know a percent, it's just move the decimal over, it's going to be zero point 0.2. So what is zero point 0.2 of 55? Well, after plugging that into my calculator, it is 11, so it's answer choice A. All right, so number two. Jay walks at a speed of 3 miles per hour and runs at a speed of 5 miles per hour. So he walks 3 miles per hour for walking and he runs 5 miles an hour, so 5R. He walks for W hours and runs for R hours for a combined of total of 14 miles. Which equation represents this situation? So I just immediately would say 3W plus 5R equals the total amount of distance traveled, which would be 14 miles. And and then this is A, obviously. But you know this because if you put in the amount of time that he did for W, and the amount of time that he ran, you could see how the distance that he traveled going at that pace. So if he did 3 miles per hour for 1 hour, that would be three. If he did it for running for 1 hour, that would be a five. So if you just put in the amount of time he did for either of those, you would go the distance and that would add to 14. So A is the correct answer. All right, number three. The scatter plot shows the relationship between two variables, x and y. A line best fit is also shown. Which of the following equations best represents the line of best fit shown? All right, well, immediately I'm going to look at the y-intercept. Okay, any of that are negative are completely wrong. And we know the slope is positive because it's going upwards. And we're looking at this answer. In this answer, we can see that this is a negative slope. So A is the only answer choice we have left. All right, number four. The graph of y equals fx is shown on the xy plane. Okay, so this is the graph. What is the value of f0? So when x equals 0, what is y is what it's asking. So let's look at x0, and immediately we can see that it is 3, y equals 3, so the answer choice is D. All right, number 5. Which expression is equivalent to m to the fourth, q to the fourth, z to the negative 1? Okay, so it seems to be the trick here. M, Q, and Z. So what they want us to do is really just FOIL this, send it over. But the trick here is, what do you do with a negative exponent? Well, actually, when an exponent is negative, you're going to throw it into the denominator for its value. So we can rewrite this as m to the fourth, q to the fourth, over z to the 1, which is just z, times m, q to the fifth, and then z to the third. So what we can do is just cross out the z's, so we have z to the second, and then multiply these across. So we know it's going to be, this is m to the 1, so m to the fourth times m to the first, you're going to get m to the fifth. You're going to get q to the fourth times q to the fifth, and you're going to get q to the ninth, and you're just going to be left with the z squared. So this is the correct answer. So let's look at the answer choices, and we can see that it is B. Number 6. What is the median of the data shown? So this is another mean, median, and mode question. Median, I like to think of it as middle, because we know mean, median, and mode. Mode, I see as most, and we all know the mean is the average. And then I like to think as median as in middle, because they have similar letters and a similar length. So it's the middle of this data set. So if we cross off this one, we slowly work our way down to the middle. We find out that it's 79 is directly in the center. So the answer is 79. All right, number 7. What is the value of x in the solution to the given equation? So we're just solving for x. So x plus 40 equals 95. Subtract 40 from both sides. We're going to get x equals 55, and that is the correct answer. Okay. Number 8. The solution to the given system of equations is x, y. What is the solution of x plus y? So, what do we need to find? We need to find x and we need to find y. So, very easily, they kind of give us it here where x will equal 3 because if we divide 15 by 5, we know that it's 3. So, x equals 3 and we can plug it into this equation to find y. So, we get negative 4x plus y equals negative 2. Plug in 3 there. We can get negative 4 times 3 plus y equals negative 2. Negative 12 plus y equals negative 2. Add 12 to both sides. Cross that out. We get y equals 10. So, okay. So we can get x plus y. Well, if we know x is 3, we know y is 10. We get 13 as our answer. C. All right, number 9. The given function g models the number of gallons of gasoline that remain from a full gas tank in a car driving m miles. According to this model, about how many gallons of gasoline are used to drive each mile. So it looks like that every mile it decreases 0.05 gallons every single mile. And so if they drove 0 miles, they start with 12.1 gallons because that's the amount they have at 0 miles. But every single mile, it's going to be reduced by negative 0.05. So the correct answer choice is A. All right, number 10. The given equation relates the positive numbers b, x, and y. Which equation correctly expresses x in terms of b and y? So x equals what in terms of b and y? We just want to get this to x equals. So let's move this equation around. If we start with 7b equals 11x over y, what I want to do is get rid of these denominators. So let's multiply this side by y and this side by 7b. So immediately I get y equals 11x times 7b. And so if we want x equals, let's move this 7b over and this 11 over. So we get y over 11 times 7b equals x. So we get y over 77b equals x. And this is going to be our answer. And that looks like it's answered choice C. Okay, number 11. The graphs of the given equation in the xy plane intersect at point xy. What is a possible value of x? Okay, well, I would just set these equal to each other because we know y is 76. We can move 76 down there. We can do 76 equals x squared minus 5. Now we can add 5 to both sides. We can have, these will cancel out. This looks like it'll be 81 equals x squared. Take the square root of both sides. And now we know 9 equals x. Oh, it could be negative 9 because if you plug in negative 9 here, negative 9 squared would still equal that positive 81 you're looking for. So B is the correct answer choice, even though it's negative 9. Seems a little tricky there, but that still works. All right, number 12. The point x53 is a solution to the system of equalities on the xy plane. Which of the following could be the value of x? All right, so when y equals 53, x equals what? And so we have an equation here. We just have to make sure that y is greater than 14. But if we plug in 53, that is greater than 14. So 53 works. So let's bring it down here. 4x plus y is less than 18. Let's plug in 53 here. We get 4x plus 53 is less than 18. Subtract 53 from both sides. We get 4x is less than negative 35. And so if we divide that by 4, we get x is less than negative, let me plug that in my calculator, 8.75. And if we're looking for any value less than 8.75, the only one is negative 9, because all it's saying is that x is less than any value is less than negative 8.75, and the only value that is A. So A is the correct answer. All right, number 13. Out of 300 seeds that were planted, 80% sprouted. How many of the seeds sprouted? So we're going to take 300 seeds, we're going to multiply them by 80%, which is just, zero point 0.8. That's going to equal 240 seeds. So that is the correct answer. All right, number 14. The function f is defined by fx equals 4x. For what value of x does fx equal 8? So we're just going to set 8 equal to 4x, divides both sides by 4. We're going to get 2 equals x. So when x equals 2, fx equals 8. All right, number 15. Which expression is equivalent to this? So it looks like we want to simplify it. So one way I'm going to do that is just draw it out again. I'm going to get 8x, x minus 7 minus 3x minus 7 over 2x minus 14. All right, I think there's a hint here. I think that these being x minus 7, and I can see that if I take out a 2 here, it's going to be x minus 7. So let's redraw that, make a little more sense. 8x, x minus 7 minus 3 times x minus 7 over, and if I take out the 2, I get x minus 7. So since these are being subtracted, they're actually not multiplied by each other, so they're kind of their own entities on the numerator. And what we can do, because they're both below this x denominator, is cross them out. We can take out this x minus 7, and we're left with x, or 8x minus 3 over 2, which is answer choice B. But if that remained a little bit confusing, let me redraw it for you real quick to make a little more sense. So I know this was a little confusing at first glance to teach how you can do that. So if you think about it, 8x, x minus 7 minus 3x minus 7, and we draw it over at 2x minus 7. That is the same way, that is the same thing as saying 8x for x minus 7 over 2x minus 7, subtracting 3x minus 7 over 2x minus 7. This is the same statement, so that's how you can cross all these out. You still get 8x minus 3 over 2. All right, number 16. Line P is defined by 2y plus 18x equals 9, where r is perpendicular to line P on the xy plane. What is the slope of line r? So the thing about perpendicular lines is that one slope might have slope m, and the perpendicular line, a line that intersects it perpendicularly, will have a negative inverse slope. So if line P is this and line R is perpendicular to our line P, the slope of line R will be a negative inverse of the slope of line P. So what we need to do is get this into y equals mx plus b form to get that m slope. So we can do that here. 2y plus 18x equals 9. So let's get x over at this side. So we get 2y equals negative 18x minus or plus 9. Divide it all by 2. We get y equals negative 18 over 2, x plus 9 over 2. So this slope is actually negative 9. And so that's the slope of line P. We need the slope of line R, so we need to take the negative inverse of negative 9. So we're going to put that negative 9 and we're going to put it over 1, and we're going to make a negative out of it. But obviously a negative on a negative will make the slope of line R a positive 1/9, and that's going to be answer choice C. All right, number 17. The given function f models the number of coupons a company set to their customers at the end of each year. T represents the number of years since 1998, and 0t less than or equal to 5, so it's between 0 and 5 years. Y equals ft is graphed on the ty plane. Which of the following is the best interpretation of the y-intercept of the graph in this context? So the y-intercept would be when x equals 0, but in this case, when t equals 0, what does that represent? over here. We know at year zero, it was 1998. So that must have been, I'm guessing at year zero, there has been no increase. It is just the number of coupons they sent that year. So let's look at the answer choices. The minimum estimated number of coupons the company sent during 5 years. Well, it's not during the entire 5 years. It's actually at year zero of that 5 years. So in 1998 specifically. So A is out of the equation. The minimum estimated number of coupons a company sent to their customers during the 5 years was 8,000. Well, that's not the y-intercept. So no, the estimated number of coupons the company sent to their customers at the end of 1998 was this. Yes, because when you plug in zero here, you get 8,000. Oh, C is not the correct answer. I am so sorry. It is D because when you plug in, because this tricked me in the beginning, because half of it is right except this part, because it is saying when 0.65 to the power of 0 actually equals 0.65, it doesn't, it equals 1. So the correct answer choice is D because 8,000 times 1 is still 8,000. So D is the correct choice. All right, number 18. Triangle XYZ is similar to RST such that XYZ correspond to RST respectively. Okay, the measure of the angle Z is 20 and is 2XY equals RS. What is the measure of angle T? Perfect. Well, let's draw it out. So we know this is X, Y, Z, and we know angle Z is going to be 20 degrees. And 2xy equals rs. What is the measure of angle T? So let's draw that triangle. But they're similar triangles, and what this implies is that their angles are actually going to be equal to each other. So it's going to be RST is XYZ, so this will be RST. And it's asking us angle T. Funny enough, that is similar to angle Z, so it's actually going to be 20 degrees because similar triangles have the same angles, even if their lengths are different. That's what makes them similar triangles. So we know X, Y, Z are ST, therefore T and Z will be the same angles. So 20 degrees, 20 degrees. Answer choice C. All right, number 19. One of the equations in a system of two linear equations is given. The system has no solution. All right. Which equation could be the second equation in the system? Okay, so for a system to not have any solution, two things need to happen. The x and y need to cross out. And this means like when we subtract a y, there's nothing there. That's what it means by cross out, but you'll see it later. I'll do an example, obviously, to solve the equation, and there needs to be no real solution. So the remaining numbers can't be true. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So let's go through A, B, C, and D. So they try to be tricky, but let's get this to y equals, let's isolate the y equals 6x plus 18. And what I mean is let's drag this over that. We're going to put y equals 6x plus 18. Hey, look at that. It's the same equation. And we're going to subtract them. And this is what I mean by crossing out the variable. So y minus y equals 0. They crossed out. 6 minus 6 equals 0. They crossed out. And 18 minus 18 equals 0. So 0 equals 0. Well, the issue with this is that it's true. There are solutions. There's actually infinite number of solutions rather than no solution because the remaining numbers are true. So we know A is wrong. Let's erase this, give me some room. So let's move on to B. Let's put this to isolate the y. We're going to get y equals 6x plus 22. And we're going to throw this over top. Y equals 6x plus 18. And we're going to subtract them. So the y's cross out. The x's cross out. But we get 18 minus 22. We're going to get a negative, what is that, negative 4? So we're going to get 0 equals negative 4, but 0 doesn't equal -4. So therefore, it's not true. The x's and the y's crossed out, and the remaining numbers are not true. So B has no real solutions. So B is the correct answer. And I just want to show you what happens with C. I'm going to show you why that one's not correct either. If you had to do it, we're going to isolate the y. We're going to get y equals 12x plus 36. And we're going to put this over top. And we're going to subtract them. So y minus y, once again, is 0. But 6 minus 12 is negative 6x. They don't cross out. So that's the issue. But over here, they need to cross out. So you're going to get negative 6x minus, what's 18 and 36? That's going to be, 18. And then if we continue to solve, we're just going to get 6x equals negative 18, x equals negative 3. But once again, that does not work because they need to cross out. So that's why B is the correct answer to 19. All right, number 20. What is the area in square centimeters of a rectangle with a length of 34 degrees and a width 29? So we know the area is length times width. This giving to in your formulas. So let's just plug in the numbers. So we get length, which is 34 times the width of 29. And if you multiply those together, let me put it in my calculator real quick. We're going to get 986 as the area. So that is the correct answer. All right, number 21. The solution to the given system of equations is xy. What is the value of x minus y? So we need to find x, we need to find y, and we need to subtract them. All right, so that immediately they give us what y is. Y equals 4x plus 1. So we can just plug that into this equation. 4 times 4x plus 1 equals 15x minus 8. So shoot that over. We're going to get 16x plus 4 equals 15x minus 8. Subtract 4, subtract 15. We're going to get x equals negative 12. Sweet, now we have x, and so we can plug it in here. So we know y equals 4 times x, which is negative 12, plus 1. So we get y equals negative 48 plus 1. So y equals negative 47. So we need to know what x minus y is. We're getting negative 12 minus negative 47, which basically means it's negative 12 plus 47. When I plug that into my calculator, it's going to be a positive 35. So this is going to be the correct answer. All right, number 22. How many distinct real solutions does the given equation have? All right, well, looking at this, if it looks for, we're going to have to, yeah, I don't think we can simplify this. I think they threw this 5 in as a curveball and this 16. So I'm thinking we're going to use our discriminant function here. So we're going to get b squared minus 4ac. And so we need to know how many real solutions it has. So if we remember with a discriminant function, if it's greater than 0, it means it has 2 real solutions. But if b squared minus 4ac is equal to 0, it means we have 1 real solution. And if b squared minus 4ac is less than 0, then we have 2 imaginary solutions. So let me clear up some space. Keeping that in mind, we either need to find out if it's greater than 0 or equal to 0. So let's plug it into our equation. So we know A equals 5, B equals 10, C equals 16. So we have B squared, so 10 squared minus 4AC. So then is it greater than or equal to 0? Well, if we get 100 minus, and we're going to get 4 times 5 times 16, we're going to get 320 compared to 0. Is it greater than or equal to. But actually, what we get is negative 220. Well, what is that compared to zero? It's actually less than zero. So keeping that in mind, now we have imaginary solutions. So we're going to have zero real solutions. So that means D is the correct answer. All right, number 23. A certain park has an area of 11,863,808 square yards. What is the area in square miles of this park? So 1 mile equals 1,760 yards. So this is square yards. So another way to put this is yards squared. And what is the area in square miles? So they want miles squared. We know that 1 mile equals 1,760 yards. So what are we going to have to do to both sides? Well, we got to get them into miles squared and yards squared. So we got to square them. So, well, 1 mile, 1 squared is 1. So 1 mile squared equals how many yards squared? So let's find the square of 1,760 times 1,760. So we get 1 mile squared equals 3,097,600 yards squared. But we know it has an area of this many. So how many square miles? So we're going to have to take this 11,863,808 and divide it by 3,097,600. And that's how we're going to find the answer. So let's plug that into our calculators. And I'm getting the answer as 3.83, which is going to be answer choice B. All right, number 24. Which of the following equations represents a circle on the xy plane that intersects the y-axis at exactly 1 point? So we wanted to touch the y-axis once. All of these are the equation of a circle. So knowing this, I can see that this is r squared. So that'll actually be 4. So we know the radius of this circle is 4 because it's 16 for every circle. And I know that these numbers here will represent the center of a circle. So for example, I'll draw circle A based off the information that I know. So imagine this is 8 and this is 8 units because I know that X is 8 units out and 8 units tall, that the center of the circle would be here. So let's imagine the arm of the circle is the radius, so we can draw it all the way out to the fourth, and this is going to be the radius of the circle. But drawing it out, I can see that it's not going to touch the y-axis anywhere because the radius is too small. The radius 4 is less than this x value, meaning it's too far away for it to reach the y-axis. So knowing that, A is out of the equation. But let me clean this up a little bit. Let's do it again for B. So drawing B, if I drew it out on a graph, we know that it would be 8 units over here and that it would be 4 tall. But that doesn't make much of a difference because even though it's a slightly stumpier circle, let's draw it out to 4 units, it still wouldn't touch the y-axis because this x value is once again larger than 4. So B's out. And now looking at C, we can see that if I drew it out, it would be 9 units tall because it's the y value, and it would be 4 units in length. And knowing that the radius is still 4, so the square root of this, I would draw it out. It would go 4 units this way, which means it would intersect at 0, meaning the circle would at 1 point touch the y-intercept. So C is the right answer, and I'll draw out D just to give you an example of what that would look like. Because if you did D, it would be 0 units out, so the center of the circle would be 9 units tall, so it'd be 9 over here because it is less, so the radius is greater than x, but it needed to equal x for this equation. So if you drew the circle here, it'd be 9 tall, so it would start here. But if you drew the circle 4 out, it would actually hit the y-intercept more than once. So it hit it twice here and here. So D is wrong, and that's why C is the correct answer. All right, number 25. In triangles ABC and DEF, angles B and E each have a measure of 27 degrees. All right, let's draw it out. Our first triangle, A, B, C, and B is 27 degrees. We have our second triangle over here, and that's going to be D, E, F, and we know that angle E is also 27 degrees. Which additional piece of information is sufficient to determine whether triangle ABC is congruent to DEF? Oh, sorry, missed a key part. Angles CF have a measure of 41 degrees as well. So we know this is 41 degrees, this is 41 degrees. And then with this, we can actually calculate the degrees in A and D because there's 180 degrees in a triangle, and we can subtract 27 and 41 from that to find what they are. And we know they're going to be the same because all the other degrees are the same. So we know all of these angles are exactly the same. So at least we know they may not be congruent, but they're similar to each other. So which additional piece of information is sufficient to determine whether triangle ABC is congruent? So we're looking for congruency, so all the sides are the same to triangle DEF. So the measure of angle A, no, we actually have that, and I don't see how it would help me figure out what the lengths of the triangle are. The length of side AB, well, if I only have one of their lengths, can't really do much with that. Can't use it to find the other triangles' lengths. So no, it's not a right triangle either. So SOHCAHTOA is out of the question. And so the lengths of sides B, C, and E, F. Well, I guess if I was given this angle and this angle, or I mean not angle, but the length of that part of the triangle, if they were the same, so if that equaled that, or if I wrote it out a little clearer, BC equaled EF, well, I'd actually be able to see if they're congruent because they would be the same size. So maybe, I think so. That looks pretty good. And then no additional information is necessary. I know that's not true because if this were also true, then wouldn't A be true? But also, I still can't figure out the lengths of the actual triangles between A, B, B, C, etc. with the information that I'm given. So C is the only answer left for 25. All right, number 26. Two data sets of 23 integers. So that's key. So 23 pieces of data made these, I guess. Each are summarized in the histogram shown. So 23 pieces of data made these histograms. For each of the histograms, the first interval represents the frequency of integers greater than or equal to 10 but less than 20. The second interval represents the frequency of integers greater than or equal to 20 but less than 30. So what it's saying is basically this is between 10 and 19. The next one's going to be 20, 29, and so on. So what is the smallest possible difference between the mean of data set A and the mean of data set B? So to calculate the mean, I would just add up the values in between multiplied by the integers or the frequency. And so I guess from what I see and how to change the possible difference between A and B would to be manipulate the data here. So I can choose whether it's 10 or 19 because it doesn't specify. So if I wanted to manipulate the data, I could use it there. And I guess if they want to find the smallest possible difference between A and B, it looks like A is skewed higher because it's skewed to the right, and B is skewed lower because it's to the left. So I can assume data set's mean is going to be higher than B. So if it's going to be the difference between A and B, my goal would be it's going to be A minus B is going to be the difference. And if I want to make this number smaller, I should make B or A as low as I can and B as high as I can to make the difference as small as possible. So one way I would do that is I would go ahead and take the average here, but I would use the lowest number possible, so 10, 20, 30, 40, instead of opting to choose the 19. And so if I go in the first box, there's 0, so it'd be 10 times 0, which would mean the first one's at 0. Then it looks like there's 3 in the 20 slot, so I'd choose 20 times 3 to be that value to add into the mean, and that would be 60. And I would do the same for 30. Looks like there's 4 in 30, which would be 120. And then looking at 40, there's 7. So 40 times 7 would be 280. And then you would look at the 50 slot, that there's 9. So 50 times 9, that would be 450. And if you add all these together, it should add up to 910. And obviously divide that with the amount of integers. So to not be 910 divided by 23 is what I'm writing there. And that means the mean for A would be 39.6. So let's calculate the same for B, but instead of using the lowest number in like 10 and 20, we're going to use the highest number like 19 or 29. And that's how we're going to skew the data. So looks like there's 3 slots here for 19. So 19 times 3, that's going to be 57. And then for 29, it looks like there's 4. So that's going to equal 116. And then we're going to have 39 here, and we're going to have 7 of those. So 39 times 7, and that's going to equal 273. And then we're going to have 49 times 9, and that's going to equal 441. We're going to add all these up. That should equal 887. We're going to divide that by the amount of integers, data points. That's going to be 23. And that means the mean for B is going to equal 38.6. And so we're going to take the mean of A minus B. And that's going to be 39.6 because we made A as low as possible while making B as high as possible. We got 38.6, and that's going to equal 1 is the difference. Answer choice B. All right, number 27. A right triangle with legs with lengths of 24 centimeters and 21 centimeters. So I immediately want to just draw this out. And it's going to have 21 centimeters and 24 centimeters. If the length of the triangle's hypotenuse in centimeters can be written in the form of 3 with the square root of d, where d is an integer, what is the value of d? So d equals what? So immediately they give us 2 legs of a right triangle and mention the hypotenuse, just Pythagorean's theorem all the way. We're going to get a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So now we know that 21 squared plus 24 squared is going to equal 33 square root of d squared. So sweet. Well, let's write that out. What's 21 times 21? If I plug that into my calculator, I get 441 plus 24 times 24, which is going to be 576. It's just going to equal, well, 3 squared is going to be 9. And then square root of d times the square root of d is just going to equal d. So let's add these together. 576 plus 441 is going to equal 1017 equals 9d. Divided by 9. We're going to get 113 equals d. And that's going to be the answer for 27.